Hello and welcome back, and I'm just going to start off with these tomatoes. I was watching Brian Polytunnel and Garden, and he was on about forcing tomato plants. That's what he's going to do next year, and the reason he's going to do that is you end up having a smaller distance between the two trusses. So I've never actually heard about this until I saw this video, and what he was saying was if you leave them in the, I think this is what it's called, 9cm tub for a little bit longer, then it thinks it's going to die, so it starts panicking and reducing the truss. And that's what I did just purely by mistake, because the pumpkins had failed and I used up my spare tomatoes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with this San Marzino one. Now this one is the prime example, because I've literally got about 2 inches between each truss. The others I've let go as more of a bush, and you can see there is a difference in the trusses on these and what is in the greenhouse. But this one really is the prime example of how it's working. So this now has become, in fact all of them have now become an experiment, because I've got more trusses on these than I have actually got in the greenhouse. Yet these are a nice workable height as well. So I'll show you this San Marzino one first, and let me know in the comments if you've heard about forcing the tomato plants, because this should be grown as a cordon. Now I've let it go with quite a few different side shoots on it, but I've literally lost count of how many trusses I've got on it. I mean, what I need to do is to compare this San Marzino with this San Marzino that hasn't gone as bushy, whether the size of the fruit are the same, and also with the two San Marzino in the greenhouse. Now the ones in the greenhouse are 6-7 foot at the moment, and they've got about 4 trusses on them, which, like I say, this one already has more than that. It's got 2 fruiting and quite a few flowering trusses, and then this one, like I say, I've lost count. So let me show you this one first. Right, so this is what I think is the actual main stem, and what it seems to do is it works more on the main stem. The side shoots, there's a greater distance between the trusses, but as you can see, there's the fruiting one there, and there's the next fruiting one there, which that's an inch. If you keep on going around the plant, if I zoom out a little bit more, you start to see how many trusses are actually on there. If I just go into this little bit here, there's one set of trusses, there's the next set, it's the same here, and there's the next set there. If we just go down there, here's the set of flowering trusses. Again, if we move over here, there's that truss, there's the next truss, that flowering truss there, here's another truss and another truss there. That's only 2 inches there, and it goes right the way around the plant. Like I say, I've lost count of how many actual trusses I've got on there, and I've tidied this plant up and taken a lot off it as well. Right, well this one is the other San Marzino, and this is the Harry Plum. If we go to the Harry plum, now the ones in the greenhouse are quite a distance, getting up to about 1 to 1.5 foot distance between the two trusses. Now this here is the main stem going up here, so I've got these fruiting, and then I've got these fruiting here. I don't know whether that's in focus. There we go. This one here, and then this is the next set, which again is, it's like I say, on the first, the main stem, it does reduce quite a bit. And what I'll do now is I'll just zoom out. So this is where it's split up, and this one's got fruiting on it, and it's going a bit more like what it is on the cordon plant. You know what's that's about? Certainly getting up to about a foot, over a foot. So it does seem to be, if you are growing, forcing it, the main stem, the trusses are shorter in distance. So I'm finding it quite interesting, because I've now got this bush of a plant, because I let a few of the side shoots grow, and I think I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. If I come around here, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got another truss there, and obviously ones are just starting, but I will top them off. So there's 7 or 8 trusses on that one. That's probably the 8th, and then you got the end trusses still to come if I don't top them off as is. So 8 trusses on a plant that size. I'm really pleased with it. Let me just show you what the Harry is like in the greenhouse. So there's the first truss on the Harry's plum down at the bottom there, and they're growing quite nicely there. And then you can see going up here, that's about 1.5 foot to the next truss. And if we go up further, there's the next truss. So if I zoom out a bit, you know, we've got about a foot, 1.5 foot. Certainly the distance between the first truss and the second truss. So if I compare these again, there's that first truss, and then just going up to there, there's the second truss. There is a noticeable difference there on the distance between the two trusses. Right, and this is the cherry Chadwick. Again, it's doing really well. I've let it, some of the side shoots go out, and I've just cleaned it up. So I have taken off one large side shoot that did actually have a fruiting truss on it. So if we go back to this, as you can see, this is the main stem going up here. So there's the first truss, and there's the second truss. Now again, I've got over a foot distance at least in the greenhouse, but here it's reduced. So this is the next fruiting truss, and then if we come further up, there's the next fruiting truss, and a bit further up here's the next one. So if I zoom back out again, and as you can see, allowing a few of the side shoots on there, I think there's 10 flowering trusses or fruiting trusses on it, and I have topped it off there and there, I've still got a few more trusses to come out on the end of the other side shoots. So we'll see how we go with that. But it's really interesting to see how many trusses you can get on a more manageable plant. Oh, and this is the Shirley Pixie and those two garden pearl, which really did look as if they weren't going to survive. As you can see, they're flourishing now and plenty of tomatoes on them. Right, so like I say, this has become more of an experiment. Not only this one, but all of them, because they are a much more manageable plant. If I can get these all in the greenhouse and with all these trusses on and start them earlier, like the ones in the greenhouse have been in the greenhouse a month longer than these were, and these have been growing outside in this awful July that we've had. Right, so what I'm going to do now is, I filmed quite a lot of this video about 10 days ago. There's been quite a few disasters along the way, and so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut to last week's one that I filmed with the Nepal tomatoes. Now the stems on them are really thick. I think some of them are getting close to over 3/4 of an inch. So they're really good for any place that you got high winds. So this is them now. Right, before I start harvesting the onions, I just thought I'd show you the Nepal and the, I think it's garden pearl. There's an absolute mass of tomatoes on these. Hopefully I'm actually showing that, if that's in shot. But this is just a beast of a tomato. This is a side shoot, and this is also a side shoot. The side shoots are that thick, but so is the stem. I don't have to worry about the wind with this because you know, it just bounces back. It really is a real beast of a plant. So I'm looking forward to seeing what size tomatoes actually grow on this. As you can see with the wind, it just doesn't move. I'll just show you a close-up so you can actually see the size of these stems on it. Right, and this is the close-up of the Nepal. I mean, how's that for a side shoot? That's massive. And if you want a close-up of how thick this gets, there's my thumb. So it really does beef up. You know, if I just twang that, it's just solid. So that's one, if you got heavy winds, that's or a very windy side, that's a real good one to grow outdoors. And like I said, I don't know whether it showed the size of these tomatoes, and these are the Gotten pearl, but there's just a whole mass of them there. So quite a lot of my tomatoes growing outdoors are doing really well. Right, so the next clip is going to be the shallots, onions that we harvested, and then it's going to run back into the rest of the video that I did 10 days ago. Right, so these are the shallots we just harvested. Really pleased with these, they're in really good condition. And look at the size of that one there. And because I had the netting, the mesh netting over when the allium leaf miner was here, I think it's April and March for us, and then also in September and November. So really pleased with the way they turned out. So they'll be going into storage now after a couple of weeks of drying. Right, so obligatory courgette in the harvest. What I need to do next is I need to harvest these onions. These 3 have bolted, and what I don't want to do is let the others start to bolt, because I really want to store them. And this is a take 2 because I forgot to put my microphone in, but these are not a bad size, so we'll see how well these actually store, because some of them did have allium leaf miner on, so yeah, we'll see how well these store. But these are going to get stored upside down in the greenhouse, so hopefully they dry off pretty quick. And then I've got to also do the tough ball onions, which are somewhere in here. It's a bit of a jungle. Right, so let's see what we get. Hopefully, like I say, not many have been damaged by the allium leaf miner as well, because this row here has disappeared because I had to take those out because of it. So let's see what we get. Right, so that's not too bad, considering we've still got all these shallots to go. So these are the tough ball, and they got a bit crowded out by the parsnip, so I don't know whether I'll do that again. And then quite a lot of these did have the allium leaf miner. I mean, this one's still got the curly leaf, so the ones which I'm a bit worried about, I'm just putting into the basket, and we'll use those up first, and I'll try and store the rest of them. But anything at the moment is a bonus. Even the price of onions have gone up. I've got to be really careful how I stand here now. I don't know whether you can capture it, but I will do close-ups of it. Is the wasps have got into the strawberries, so I've battled with the birds. The wood mouse is doing stashes, which again I'll show you, and then we've got the wood lice as well, and now the wasps. So we're looking at it and going, these are in their 2nd year. I think it's time just to take them all out and use the beds for something else. Something else that's not going to sting us, because it is just swarming now. So what we have got is 3 miles, let me see, 3 miles in that direction we've got pick your own strawberry farm, and then another 2 miles further on we've got another pick your own strawberry farm, and then just over, my bearings right, just over there within walking distance is 3 miles over some country paths, we've got another pick your own strawberry farm. So I don't really need to be growing these strawberries when we can just take a nice walk and go and pick our own when we need them. As you can see, they're just everywhere at the moment, just munching away. Right, I'm just being careful here. As you can see, they're just boring in, just absolutely everywhere. And this is one of the stashes that the wood mouse has done. And here's another one. Again, being very careful with all these wasps. So it's just been a constant battle now, and well, they've won. And then there's all the wood lice as well. They have just been eating away. at them. So yeah, I've obviously already got the Belotti dwarf beans to go in along these beds at the edges. So what I'm going to do is runner beans. I've still got more beetroot, turnips, radishes, winter radishes. So I think it's best now just to take them out very carefully. Yeah, in further bad news is, as you can see, this bed is now empty. So we did have the carrots and the onions. The onions have just harvested, but when I started to take out some of the carrots, they have started to rot. With all the rain that we've had and how well this bed holds the water, they started to rot. So I'm going to change this bed now to onions during the spring and summer, and then going on to Brussels sprouts and leeks, and it will have netting over it so that the leeks are protected during the September to November period with the allium leaf miner. So it's another change, but at least I'm starting to work out what I can sow in my beds. That one is parsnips and this one's going to be onions purely, and then onto the sprouts and the leeks. So I'm starting to narrow down what my beds will be used for. But yeah, it's a bit more of a disappointment. I've got to re-sow all the carrots that I sowed. And what I'm going to do is do them in pots. I'm going to do them in 15-litre pots. I'm going to do it as 2. So let me just show you. Right, so what I've got is these 15-litre tubs, and this one's just a cheap one. So what I'm going to do is cut the bottom off, and hopefully I can then set it to quite a nice height and get some large carrots, because obviously you got the big taproot with it. So I'm thinking I can get it to around about there, and I think I can get around about 16 in there, maybe even more, but we'll say 16 if I thin them out nicely, which is similar to a row there. Okay, I won't get the thinning out of the carrots harvest, but if I just put some real poor soil in there and horticultural sand, hopefully I get real good drainage, and they work this time. Right, hopefully next week's one's going to be a bit more cheerful. I still got the harvest of the onions, so that's alright. So like I always say, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you next time.